We love action, especially in movies, from Jet Li to John Wick. And so, how do we translate that level of action and excitement into our own prose? I'm James Winterthorn. This is Writer's Theory, and let's talk about writing action. I spent a lot of my writing career trying to learn certain techniques, trying to master certain parts of my own writing to achieve the goals that I wanted. And if that's how to write good dialogue, if that's to minimize exposition and showing versus telling, um, techniques like this that make our prose readable, that make the stories exciting. And one of those aspects that I really took for granted, and only in the past several years have I got more confident in, has been writing action. And it really, I don't know that I tried hard to diagnose my own writing more than I just found techniques that I liked and kept developing them. So today, I'm going to share with you 5 tips on writing action. These tips are from my own learning. They're not a composition of what I found during research or surveys or anything like that. These are my techniques. And so I hope that you find value in them. And then I hope that you share your techniques on writing action in the comments below. So let's get right into it. And the first technique that I have to share with you is to map out your scene. So if you follow my work and what I promote for writing, you know that I'm more of a write from the subconscious style of writer and how I coach. So I generally tell students, tell myself to have an outline, of course. Like you have to kind of have some idea of where you're going, know your characters well, and then let them live in the world that you've created and let them drive the effort forward. When it comes to action, you're still going to do this. You're still going to let your characters surprise you and just be, and you're going to almost you're going to observe and record what happens. But with action, you do need to be more specific about what you want to accomplish. So if this is a jailbreak, you want to map out each section of this scene. So is there the characters in the jail cell? Are there accomplices outside of the jail cell? Are they going to blow a hole in the wall? Do they need to incapacitate a law enforcement officer? Those people then need to get out of the jail. They then need to flee the scene. These are all individual pieces that need to be mapped out. Ultimately, starting from character in jail to character out of jail and on the run, right? So that would be like the goal with this particular example. And you can see there were 4 to 5 different steps within that. So that's what I'm talking about, mapping out this action sequence. And really, you could do this with any scene, but I think it's particularly important to do with action because it helps us stay on track and get a very impactful story told for this particular scene. So the first step is mapping out the scene. Now, the next step is to use what I call beats. So break up this larger scene into these beats. So in the last step, I told you to have 4 or 5 steps in that larger scene. Each of those things is a beat or a mini scene. And within this mini scene, there's going to be a goal. There's going to be actions toward that goal. and then of course, the consequences of what happened during that beat. We do this because this allows us to get a little more granular into each segment. So that first portion being setting the scene of the character in the jail and being alerted that someone's outside. Like, what is that character trying to accomplish? What does it look like within that scene? And then we're going to write that out first. And then once that's accomplished, then we have a little more material to work with the explosives that are set up outside of that cell, and we can then work in that scene. So breaking the scene up into smaller scenes or beats is my next bit of advice. From here, and this is something I'm guilty of in the past, where because it's action, we feel like we want to write quickly as well. It's so exciting that if we write quickly, that the reader will follow along, and because it's written quickly, there might be less prose, and the scene will move quickly, but the reader might not be as interested because it's not detailed, it's not exciting. So my next bit of advice is to slow down and describe more. So by slowing down and getting very granular, we're able to see the scene better. We can describe what this character's experience is like in the jail. And then we can describe the character's movements better. What is the feeling before this jailbreak? And then in the next beat, we can describe the explosion that happens and be very detailed in that. And trust that when you're writing action out, that you probably have a good hook for your reader. Your reader will be interested, so you can include more detail and you can share more of what's happening because it's an exciting scene. So don't be afraid to spend a little more time in each beat and draw this out. These are the exciting moments that a lot of readers are looking for. So give them what they want and share more of this action. And we do that by going a little slower during these fast scenes. My next bit of advice, and I've alluded to this already, is be sure to balance the actions taken with the reactions of those actions taken. Basically, something happens, what's the result? So we have this goal of blowing up the side of the building so a character can escape. Well, what happens there before we just jump into the next beat? Are the characters startled? Do we feel the heat of the blast? Are there others that are alerted now to this large event that's just happened? We want good reactions, and we want to know how characters feel. And spending time with the characters during the reaction phase of this will engage your reader more. It will add depth to the scene. So it's not just a series of actions. There are consequences that affect the characters in the scene. So think about how each goal that you set up in these beats affects the characters and write to that feeling. The last bit of advice, and we're getting even more granular now. So you can see we started in this very this larger overview of the scene, and we moved into smaller scenes within it. We moved into slowing that scene down. We moved into how does it feel for those characters. And now we're all the way down to sentence structure and how to write it out. And I know I talked about using a lot of description and keeping and slowing down and adding more material, but we don't want our sentences now to be overly verbose. We don't want run-on sentences overly describing. We still want very clear and concise and sometimes short and punchy sentences. This adds to the speed of the scene. While we can still have a lot of content, we don't want the sentences to be too long. We want to get to the point of each sentence and really just drive the point home when necessary. So while we're still going to describe the scene, we're going to describe how characters feel. We're not going to overload our reader in the moment and slow the pace down. So we're going to keep our sentence structures tight and to the point. This takes some work. It takes some balancing out. And if you're not familiar with writing action, you're not comfortable with it, it's okay to have some practice scenes where you try this thing, where you map out your scene and you map it out into smaller scenes and you wonder how the characters are going to react. And then you work on describing those scenes really well and work on keeping the sentences concise and very impactful. It takes some practice. And this, again, this is what I have learned from my own writing. And I feel like this is something that can be applied to other people's techniques, especially if you're just learning how to write action. If you're not sure where to start, take these 5 tactics and apply them to your next project. If you haven't already, I have a free resource that I'll put a link to down below called the Fiction Forge. And in the Fiction Forge, there are a series of writing activities. Writing action is one of them, and these techniques are listed there. So it's completely free. Just follow the link below, and you can download your copy of the Fiction Forge today. I love writing action. I think I take for granted my ability to do that, and just thinking that everyone just write action this way. It's easy. It's a skill, just like any other writing technique. So I encourage you to practice it. Have some fun writing it. Don't put too much pressure on yourself for how it turns out. Just have some fun writing. And the Fiction Forge is a great way to do that. So that's what I have for today. My techniques on how to write action. I hope you found some value in it. I hope it helps you in your writing going forward. If you have techniques on writing action, please comment below. I'd love to know what your experiences are and to know how to help my own writing and to also disseminate that to other students. If you enjoyed this content and you want to see other videos on writing topics and you want to follow my journeys of novel writing, please like and subscribe. If you hit the bell, you'll be notified when new videos come out. It really does help the channel. Download your copy of Fiction Forge today. Again, that is completely free. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. I spent a lot of my learning during my